Welcome to Red Light, Green Light, the podcast where seasoned leaders and top-tier executives in science, tech, pharma, finance, and innovation open up and get real with me and with you. You'll hear personal stories from key moments of their career arcs and how they've struggled and succeeded when it comes to moving audiences from the red light of risk to the green light of go. I'm Cindy Skalicky, storytelling strategist and author of the best-selling book, Red Light, Green Light, How Top Leaders Present with Polish, Get Buy-in, and Become More Influential. On this podcast, you'll hear from an exceptional invite-only lineup of leaders who've been in the room and at the table when stakes were high, decisions were hard, and their stories had to land. This is where expert minds share stories that shape the future. What's more, you'll walk away with tips you can try immediately to drive the vision of innovation with your team. Hi, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to another episode of Red Light, Green Light. I am your host, Cindy Skalicky, and every week we bring to you a leader who's had extensive experience in his or her field and is ready to talk with me about strategic storytelling and their journey of figuring it out, right? How do you get those audiences of stakeholders from the red light of risk to the green light of go, thus the name of the podcast, Red Light, Green Light. And today I'm thrilled to have a new guest, Fred Brigham. Sorry, Fred, I was like jostling there. Welcome, Fred. I'm so happy to have you here with me in the studio today.
Thank you, Cindy. It's a pleasure to be here. So I really appreciate this opportunity to speak with you.
Absolutely. Let me read a little blurb that I've got ready for you, Fred, and then we'll jump into some of your background and kind of how you arrived where you are. So Fred is an executive at Wells Fargo, and he leads risk and issue management with global payroll currently. He spent more than 20 years in banking, including time at Wachovia, Bank of America, now Wells Fargo, and is centered around operational risk, controls, and leading teams through complexity. One of the things I loved about our initial conversation, Fred, was, how do we elevate leaders and not just the business and the bottom line? Like, how do we kind of help the people part of the business, which is always an attractive entry point of conversation for me, since we do so much with people and communicating. So yeah, let us start with just an introduction of kind of where you are, where do you live, and how did you arrive in this lane of banking and numbers? Because that's not my jam. So
yeah, I'm originally from the DC area,
okay.
and I live with my family down in Charlotte, and then I'm currently back up in the DC area now.
Okay.
And so, kind of what led me here, my journey does span 20 plus years across financial services. And so with that stated, it's this intersectional, I would say, of risk, operations, and people strategy has always been the mainstay for any aspect of work that I've done across those businesses, right? So I started out in large transformation initiatives, merger integration work. I learned early on that really clarity, coordination, when the stakes are truly high, and that's important, right?
Yes.
As we kind of meander through some of these challenges that those initiatives bring upon. So from there, my career more evolved into enterprise risk, heavy regulatory, effectively to global operations.
Yep. Okay.
So we across cross-regional teams. We are a global firm. So that does present additional challenges and opportunities as well.
It does, right.
When you're working across those various time zones and differentiation with work styles, you have to manage that effectively. So like you introduced it very effectively, I run the risk and issue for our global operations within payroll. And really, one of the challenges is to strengthen those operations and the governance. As you can imagine, across my firm and most of our peer banks, the risk framework has been paramount, right?
Right.
Regulators were heavily focused on this to making sure that no challenges are present or no real gaps are effectively there across these businesses. Given the fact that we are literally managing people's money, and from my perspective, we're managing people's pay.
Right.
You can only imagine even further that as while we think of the other large items of, investment banking, commercial banking, everyone wants to be paid accurately and timely.
Yes.
It's important that we are doing all the right things to ensure that that is consistent every paycheck, every pay cycle.
Right. Love it.
To me, really, what shaped my approach, though, is really that belief that leadership is about how you show up for people. But more importantly, I think it's how you effectively present your messaging and your opportunities clearly with intention. And I think once we do that, we can build that trust and really forge together ahead.
Right. Yes. And trust is the single most important piece that we must have in place to generate the kind of communication that we all want, which is authentic and, eyes wide open, and just really provides for us a chance to see things as they are, understand the risks that are out there and how we might avoid those, and find those paths to certainty, whether it's around, investment dollars and timely payroll, or relationship building inside the organization, with your strategic partners, with other investors. It's really critical to come into the situation with that type of an ethos. And we've all had experiences where the relationship building has been lacking or low, and it's felt quickly, right, when it comes down to it. So it's interesting. We talk about risk on this show as far as kind of risks of not bringing your audience along, right, in a message. And that's my kind of red light of risk. But you have a completely different meaning around the word risk when it comes to financial risk and how you're as a global entity managing risk. So talk a little bit about that, in terms of how you see risk and what how you've managed that within your communications and within the industry, even because you've been at other places too. It kind of goes up and down, right?
Yeah, it does. And it's an ever evolving process. So effectively, really assessing risk it has to happen in the day-to-day, right? So it's really imploring the teams to look at things. I think what the challenge has been for a lot of groups is because they do get caught in the minutia of the work that they're performing. They're not seeing the bigger picture, right? So sometimes we can trip upon ourselves if we don't stop, reassess how the work's being performed, identify potential gaps that need to be mitigated. And it's imploring the important aspect of that. One thing is it's hard for a lot of individuals to understand is, why do we have to do this? Why are we doing this? My gosh, I've got many things on my plate. I don't want to deal with this right now.
Right.
That's where the leaders come in with answering the question why. Why is so important to adopt that change, to move things forward, because they feel like, okay, they're being brought along with the change, not just do it. Look, we'll ask questions. We got to get this done. We got a hard deadline. Just get it. And
just do it.
They're like, okay, the boss wants it done. I don't know why we're doing this. We'll get it done.
Right.
And so I feel like that's one of the challenges you have when you're trying to assess risk effectively. You have a clear plan of what you can do, what's achievable, right? And I think it's important to understand, is this risk material? You have to answer that question. Is it something we need to look at from a financial perspective? Is it potentially, could it be reputational, right? Could it be regulatory? You have to look and assess compliance risk. So there's a number of categories you have to sort of check off and make sure, understand. Is this something we can risk accept? Because look, the risk is so low and minimal and potentially rare, we move forward. This is not one we focus on. That's important too. You don't want to fight every battle. You don't want to die on every hill. You want to pick the ones that are going to be most impactful and meaningful to ensure compliance, integrity, right, and effective risk mitigation. And it's making sure you do that And my teams do that every
Yeah.
day. They're looking at assessing these things.
Well, and you're talking about, if you don't know the why behind what you are asking your team to do, they don't have emotional buy-in, right? I mean, we talk
Zero.
a lot about
Mhm.
buy-in for whatever you might be positing with a presentation to a board or a senior team, but
Yeah.
you need your team to have that emotional buy-in and see their importance and their value and their role in the
Oh yeah.
process, because it's like, hey, we work at our jobs 66 to 8 70% of our waking hours and living years or something, crazy numbers, but
Yeah.
it's important to give people the feeling that what they're doing is of high value. And yeah,
Correct.
you have to de-risk financial situations, messaging situations, emotional situations. It's all
Mhm.
about reducing that red light of risk so that you can be in motion, right, toward that kind of green line of go, right? So
Yes.
um,
Absolutely. You
yeah.
know, it's a red light challenge when they can't answer it, but when they
Right.
can, there's a beautiful green light
Yeah,
opportunity.
yeah,
It's,
exactly.
to your point, it makes meaning. It helps people see the bigger picture, right?
Right,
And I think that, again, is sort of like what I said earlier, it brings them along the journey. So they
right,
feel more
right,
invested in the
right,
adoption of the change.
right.
Mhm.
Okay, I have a question about your younger self.
Mhm.
I would like to know, when you were talking about level setting, and we do a lot of work with teams who need help level setting a message and seeing from higher up what the problem
Mhm.
is or the strategy. Because if you're too close to the ground and you can't see the bigger reasons, then it can be
Yeah.
hard to know where to go next. Who in your life, when you were younger and an earlier stage of your career, who showed you the way in a sense of what it looks
Mhm.
like to have that executive presence, that powerful impact in your communication skills? Who do you point to in your timeline before you as someone who's really shown you what you would like to be as a leader?
I love that question, and I have one.
Oh,
This was
good.
I just started with Wachovia before the meltdown of the market, and there was a board level initiative to turn around their mortgage bank, and
Okay.
Peter Bottom hired me as part of this dream team to put
Okay.
together sort of an assessment of
Okay.
how things got to this point. Okay, and now what are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
He was such to me
Mm.
phenomenal leader, but more
Mm.
he had that executive presence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Intelligence, second to none, right?
Wow.
There's his
Awesome.
composure, his precision, and his intent. And
Mm.
always answer the question why. But more
Mm.
important, you he did not like sitting there in a meeting regurgitating slides, right?
Right.
And so here I'm this young, I'm eager, I'm hungry, and I've got all this information. I'm putting these slides together. It's like this freaking encyclopedia, right?
Like,
Well, I
look what
couldn't
I
wait.
know.
Read them all out. Color copied them, which big mistake. He was big on the environment. So I put that down on everyone's seat, and I'm all excited. He walks in, he goes, says, I'm like, well, we're going to go through the slides. He goes, let's just pretend that we can all read, okay? I expect everyone to know the content on this slide. Now, let's talk through how we're going to fix this.
Oh,
And what I liked about it was, one, you dare didn't break. Now, this is the BlackBerry days, okay? This is pre
okay.
iPhone.
Okay. We're
You
dating
dare
ourselves
bring
here.
in this.
That's okay.
He wanted a, to me, engaged, collaborative session. So he
Yes.
wanted everyone focused, engaging, and he wanted you contributing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and since that time, not a lot of leaders adopted that style.
Right.
So it's not like something I saw consistently, but
Hmm.
he stood out and
Well,
he delivered it with intent. So his point was, tell me what I should do. Now
right.
he'll make the ultimate decision, but he wants to see what do you got.
Yes.
And I love that because you all felt like you were part of the process.
So, Fred, this is a huge theme that I see very often, which is, I'll work with a leader in a situation like you were just sharing
Mhm.
about, and I'll work with like the you, right? And they say, well, Cindy, like I'm going to go in front of this team or this C-suite audience, and they
Mhm.
have the pre-read. Okay, to your point, they can read. And in one instance somebody said something to me like, we were talking about the opening 5 minutes of like how you
Mhm.
set the stage for this
Yeah.
conversation, which it should be. And he said something like, well, normally I just sort of ask like at the beginning, does anyone have any questions about the pre-read? And I was like, nope, we're not doing that. Like, this is
Right.
your moment. This is your chance to set and frame their
Mhm.
mind about how this conversation is going to go. But importantly, to your point, the leadership wants to know how you see the situation. You, Fred, right?
Mhm.
You, Joe or Sue or whoever it is, they want to
Mhm.
know how you see it, not
Mhm.
like that this is going to be some kind of, democracy of just ideas, right? They want to know what you think because you're closer to it. And that
Yeah.
sounds like, that's what this person did for you. So,
Oh, for sure. For sure.
and how did
And
you feel in that moment? I like, because this is important too. Like, you could have easily felt slighted in that moment or scared or like uneasy when he said, like, get rid of this. We're just going to have this. Like, you had worked really hard. Like, let's be
Mhm.
real, right? You had poured yourself into
Oh
that day.
yeah.
And he kind of was like, shredder,
I was like, I killed myself in this thing. I
Right.
felt a little dejected because I'm like,
For
one,
sure.
did I mess up? Did I screw up here? So I'm
Right.
trying to assess myself of what I could have done better. And I was kind of caught off guard because I thought the whole purpose of that meeting was to go through this deck, fine
Oh my
tune,
gosh.
make
Yes.
adjustments. But at that point, he was just like, "You already know this material. We've been going
Right.
through this. Now, tell me how we're going to fix this. What do you
Yes.
got?" And then we go
Yes.
through each stream leader and say, "What do you got? What do you got? Technology. What do you got? Right?
Yeah, like
community,
boom, boom,
community
boom. Let's
alignment.
get
What do
it
you got?
done. I don't
Yeah.
have all
And
day.
so,
I've got to do stuff. Right. So
right.
what did you learn, Fred, in that moment? Did you change your behavior after that
Yeah.
meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Come prepared. Come
Yes.
prepared. Don't focus so much on the output of the material, but open
Hmm.
on the actual content of what we're trying to describe here. What are the challenges? Come think before the meeting and go, here are some challenges I'm seeing. This is where I'm having a hard time.
Yes.
We talk about this. What are you guys getting? Is
Right.
any of the, you know, the one thing that I think people are afraid is to show a weakness. But
Yes.
sometimes, like, look, I'm struggling to get past
Yes.
this obstacle. Has anyone
Yes.
else dealt with this? Help me get past this,
Oh,
right?
I love it.
And
Yes.
and early in your career, you're afraid to show some of those vulnerabilities because you want to try to show, hey, I got something to
I
contribute.
know. Yes. Yes.
Respect me. I'm younger than most
Mhm.
of you, so I want to be sort of the equal playing ground. But that really sort of set the tone and kind of retrained how I was thinking about it.
There
And
is
so you don't take the back seat. You get involved. You ask the questions, and guess what? Even in your mind, if you're asking a valid question, there's no such thing as a dumb question.
there's
And
no such thing.
a
I
good
totally
leader
agree.
is going to engage and go, oh, you know what? I'm glad you asked that. We've addressed that last week, but let's talk about that. You
Right.
close have a quote. Others will say, that was a stupid question. Why'd you ask that? Or something like that. There really isn't because everyone consumes information differently. And
Yes.
my perspective was this, even though
Hmm.
the person in their mind, that's easy, that's answered. It's not
Right.
always clear. So
Right.
it's making sure that you feel comfortable doing so. And I would say at that time in my career, I was afraid to ask that dumb question
Yep.
because I was around such effective leaders that I didn't want to show that vulnerability.
Right. Hey, listeners, super quick station break question for you. Have you ordered your copy of my new best-selling book, Red Light, Green Light? Check it out. Grab your copy today at onpoint-communications.com/book. And now back to the show. And I'm glad you said vulnerability and not weakness, because it's not a weakness.
Mm-mm.
There's actually incredible strength and courage and
Sure, sure.
decisiveness to say to a room. So here are all the things that I know and I think about
Mm-hmm.
this opportunity or decision. But here are my gaps. And I just got to say, this is what I'd like to get most out of this meeting or call is to learn, what have you done in this situation? What background can you bring to help us
Mm-hmm.
get through this hurdle or over this hurdle? And how many times have you been told after you asked a dumb question in quote marks, like, thanks for asking that question because I didn't know the
Yeah,
answer either from somebody else,
I've had
Like,
that. And to me, when someone always says, "Oh, sorry, this is a dumb question," I said, "No such thing. Ask it." You know, one of the things that I will definitely say is that it's a pet peeve, and you've probably seen this, and I think in corporate world we can all attest to this, is that when people they schedule meetings and they bring on 20 people, there's no, to me, agenda or purpose
Oh
for the
my
call
gosh.
or the outcome, right? So,
Right.
you're bringing on, it becomes such a very expensive call, but yet you don't
Mhm.
know what you're discussing and what the
Right.
purpose of the meeting is. So you're trying to understand, what am I
Why are
coming
we
into?
here? Hmm.
So I very rarely, I won't attend a call that doesn't have that purpose established. So I will
Yes.
respond back and say, what's the intent of this call? What's the outcome? Are we informing or are we making a decision? You know,
Yes.
because
Right.
if we don't have that, then what are you walking into? Then you can kind of feel your way through it. It's a
Right.
waste of time.
It's
You
such a
know,
waste.
so you made some good points there that
Hmm.
resonate with me, saying,
Hmm.
yes, like, be intentional. So you schedule
Right.
that meeting, be cognizant of other people's time. And you
Yep.
know what? If you can't convey it there, put it in an email.
Yes, even
Then you can
before the
have a meeting.
meeting, right? Like, yes, reminder that in this meeting, by the end, that's probably one of the
Mhm.
most valuable phrases you can start a sentence with in a meeting or in the email leading up to the meeting is by the end of this time, we need to what? Like, have more
Yeah.
clarity, have a decision, make a purchase
Right.
decision.
Align path
We
forward.
need,
Right.
yeah. And
Right.
it's amazing to me how that one simple thing of one sentence of an agenda verbalized by the person running the meeting puts
Yes.
everyone at ease and makes the meeting worthwhile because to your point and you're in global payroll it costs money to have these meetings like these people are on payroll and you've got senior leaders and like that's money right there, right? So like
Yes.
frankly,
You know what? I've done that before. I've tallied the cost. I just did a ballpark cost of what a
yeah,
meeting. I said right there, this is
yeah,
this is $100,000 meeting. Was it
yeah,
worth it?
right.
It was like 50
$100,000,
people
what do
on
we
there.
do? We just ran in circles and chased our tail, right?
It was a waste of time. Everyone walked away going, that was a waste of 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't want to walk away with that. And again, as decide to be an executive leader, you can be the person scheduling the call. Just be intentional with what your
Right.
expectations for the call, so that everyone's on the same page. If
Right.
there's information they need to see, provide it. Say,
Yep.
hey, here is some information that I want to talk through. Get it out in front of them so they can get ahead, look at it,
Yep.
because sometimes you're looking for their perspective from their team. So it's those things that are, to me, are intentional, right? You have to do
Right.
to be effective. And look, time is money, and that's the essential short story. But if you want to make good decisions, you want to do it with effective outcomes.
Right. Right. Because we're all doing a lot of this virtual, work as
Sure.
we just go through life and post, 2020 and whatnot. So when you're constantly switching gears in your screen,
Mhm.
from one meeting to the next, you forget what you're supposed to do in the next meeting. You forget who else is coming, what the topic is. Like there's
Mhm.
a quote in my book from a leader who says this very thing like the number of meetings that I go to a day range between probably 8 and 12 across multiple divisions at multiple depths or levels. And he says, I really appreciate clarity, conciseness, and creativity, right? So you can be creative, but we've got work to do and places to be, and we don't want to waste time. So
That's
it's
a
really
good point.
great. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be better to say that you only had to do 3 meetings that were highly effective and actually had meaningful outcomes, and get rid of those 9 or so
Yes.
meetings that really didn't have much benefit
Yes.
and value,
Yes.
right?
And it,
How
uh,
much more you get done?
you're like, I'm canceling the rest of my day today.
Well, this is going to be interesting week for me. I only have
Right.
4 meetings.
Gee, huh. Should have had the 8, right?
I did a podcast, change the world. Yeah.
Right. That's
But
right. That's what
yeah,
we're here to do. You're welcome, Fred.
it's,
No.
that resonates with a lot of people. And
Yeah.
there's those that love to say, "Oh, I was in 20 meetings today," and it's just like
It's like,
that. I wouldn't brag about that. Like
no, it's
that's
not a
not
badge of
good use
honor.
of time. And
Yeah.
in some cases, we should decline more that don't have effective clarity.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, how do you approach this type of, I mean, this is just one of many different things that leaders
Sure.
need to learn how to
Mhm.
navigate as they go upward. And we were talking at the top of the call or the show about, you really like to invest in your leaders around this type of growth where it's not
Mhm.
just about their position, but it's about them as leaders. So, what are some other areas that you see in leaders after all these years, Fred?
Mhm.
That are kind of top three areas maybe of things that leaders really just need to have under their belt and need some mentorship around.
Well, I honestly think the number one thing is effectively understand how to communicate the why. I
Okay.
think that to me is paramount. I
Okay.
think because, clarity of outcome, definitely.
Right.
Communicating effectively the why, right,
Yep.
will be number two for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
also making sure that you simplify the
Mm.
message around the complexity so it's understandable and consumable and
Mm-hmm.
actionable. And if you
Yes.
could do those three things,
Yeah.
set.
Boom.
It changes, it's
Understandable,
a game changer.
actionable,
You know,
consumable.
and I was kind of tying back, I was of that mindset in my younger youth that I got to load this present, tons of data, chart, graph, tables, just tons of data. There we go. See that? Look at all that. And then people are
Look how
going,
smart I am. Right.
you look at all this. And I remember creating these decks for other people and
Mhm.
putting all this information. And I swear to God, it was a 50-page deck
Yeah.
with literally 20 pages and 35 of appendices, right?
Hmm.
You lose everyone, and you see it in the meetings you're having, whether it be in person or whether it be on a Teams or what have you.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep.
They're
You
zoning
see
out.
it. It's
People are
so
on their
easy to see.
devices. You've lost them.
Yep.
So no clarity of message,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
There's zero understanding of the why,
Right.
and
Right.
it's not actionable because you don't know what you're looking at. And I
Right.
think if you can do that, simplify the message, simple bullet points, talk through it, right?
Right.
If you want more information, I can provide you after this call, you
Right.
know, but this is what I need.
Right.
This is what I need from you.
Yep.
Okay. And this is why we're doing this. This is a
Hmm.
fundamental change. You
Hmm.
know, I want to talk about something that's a fundamental change right now. We talk about AI. AI
Yeah.
is the word now, right?
Hmm.
And it's like, you want to talk about, I'll use an old word, paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's a new one. I
is
haven't heard
that,
that one in a
right?
while.
Dusted that one off the shelf, didn't I, Cindy? Pulled it
Right.
right off. But I'm dating myself there. But I think if those three things are effectively done by the leader,
Hmm.
then I think the outcomes will be more consistent and to
Yep.
me, more successful.
I agree. I agree. And I just read an article. So just to pick up your piece on AI, and
Mhm.
I don't mean to like dive into this topic like but we're all sitting here looking at this thing and wondering how
Mhm.
it's going to change things. So I read an article over the weekend about the tsunami of AI and how a lot of the leaders who have been creating this monster, and I have quote marks there for our listeners, but they really are kind of going, we don't know what we've just created. This is a tsunami. Like we can see it off in the distance and it's coming for us, but we don't really know like, how many of us are going to drown, right? And how much destruction this is going to
Right.
create because it's more powerful than we meant to make it. And, I got to be honest with you, Fred, I have kind of stirred up. I'm like borderline frustrated, angry at this whole concept of like, oh, AI can do anything. And I'm like, you know what? No, it cannot. And it cannot do the things that I teach leaders how to do, which is be real and authentic and vulnerable in a presentation that's happening live.
Mhm.
And it is absolutely untrue that you can go whip up an AI presentation and deliver it with any sense of meaning or
Mhm.
personal buy-in because you have to personally buy into
Mhm.
what you're saying and creating. And so that is a big red light of risk for leaders who are like, oh, just use AI. Just use AI. I mean, a quick example, and I'll get off my soapbox. I'm sorry.
No, this is really relevant right now.
It
So
is.
I'm glad you segued in. This is a very important topic.
It's very frustrating
Mhm.
for people like me. So last week I gave a presentation. I was invited by a local high school to give a
Mhm.
presentation on fortitude, which is one of
Hmm.
their core values. And I reflected to my friends and a couple people. I stood up there and I spoke for like 36 minutes on the video. And it took me 10, 12 hours to come up with what I was going to say. By the time I thought about it all, and because I didn't have that in the can, right? I don't have a talk on fortitude. I had to create it, and I drew a
Mhm.
life, a timeline of my life, and I was making sure it was relevant to the kids. And I said, if I had asked AI to do that for me, and even if it got kind of close, it would not have had nearly the emotional connection to me as a person if I didn't write it, think about it, and go through it my own self to bring what I really brought to that audience was me. Like I brought them me. And you can't duplicate that. I don't
Mm-mm.
care how hard you try. So that's my thinking on the danger we're in, because pretty soon what I'm afraid of, I'll be totally honest, Fred, I am concerned that people are going to be okay with presenters who are presenting with AI,
Mhm.
and they're
Mhm.
going to think that's normal.
I agree. There's no authenticity,
Right.
and that human experience, that lived experience, you can't
Yes.
replicate with AI. Now, AI
Mm-mm.
can sit there and look at your profile, do something, and then tell you who you are. That's
Right.
not you. Those are just
Right.
little anecdotes of you.
Right.
You fill in those little gaps
Right.
that AI can't fill with
Right.
human experience. Like
Right.
that explanation you asked me about my mentor, right?
Right.
He doesn't know that.
No.
To your point, how you drive that messaging home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right. It is a tsunami. Gosh, I think that analogy you provided was beautiful. And I think it's accurate because we don't know what's coming. And it's
Right.
coming faster than we've ever even imagined. Clearly, right?
Right.
I'm hearing this nowadays. It's like, okay, use Copilot, Copilot, Copilot. Why aren't you using Copilot?
Right.
Copilot. Well, Copilot doesn't have to write my emails. I can write my own emails. I've been doing that for
Right.
20 plus years. I can continue to do that on.
Right.
But it is that push, right? And the way the messaging is going to be vital because I am hearing this now, and I'm looking at this for my organization across the
Sure.
board.
Sure.
How can we improve some of our efficiencies? So it's the
Right.
message.
Sure.
Because people are hearing AWS or UPS firing all their developers
Yeah.
because of AI.
Yes.
So when you start presenting, hey, we're going to start looking at AI opportunities across the organization, people automatically go to, oh crap, my job's done. You know, you got to be careful with that because I
Yeah.
think effective, the why is
Mm-hmm.
important. Why
Right.
are we looking at AI for this
Right.
specific area? Well,
Yeah.
let's be honest. You got to be intentional and you got to be extremely transparent. That
Mm-hmm.
helps convey the message and the
Mm-hmm.
importance. But more
Yeah.
important, that these tools are enabling people, right? Reducing manual work so that
Right.
they can do more high value contributional work,
Right.
right? That it's like, I'm not replacing you. I'm just
No.
trying to be more effective,
No.
more
Yeah.
critical work that we really need versus some of these mundane tasks. Unfortunately, you have to do because you don't have an option other than that.
Right.
So it's around really level setting the expectations of what we're trying to achieve together on it.
Yes.
And I feel like right now that's not happening consistently. And I think that's something we should be doing very proactively.
Right. And it's a learning curve that we're all
Oh my
we're all
gosh.
in the middle of. And I
Yeah.
want to be really clear. I'm not like I believe in a lot of the benefits of AI and what it can do
Yes.
and does do. I'm not an anti-AI person. I'm saying that in my through my lens and my perspective, there's danger in bringing it too closely into the kind of things that I do. But absolutely, it's a great tool used well when used well.
Correct.
It's
Correct.
just, we were just talking the other day, one of my friends and I, about how, oh, well, I've used AI for some email writing. And we were talking about the argument that you get in with AI, which is like, I just need help. I got to send an email in 5 minutes to this person. So you ask it to do it. And then it comes back and you're like, that's not quite right. I don't like that word. And then you start like fighting with it about the smallest things when really, if you just picked it up and stuck it in and gave it your own little thing, and then you end up, not even sending it before the meeting, which was the whole purpose of using it. So
You're spending more time battling with AI than you are just writing yourself.
you're
I
like
know.
this tug of war. And suddenly it's like, well,
Accurate.
now I'm mad at you, and you can yell at it and you can do all these things, but like, it's
Well,
just funny.
it's
Yeah,
funny because our kids live and die by
I
ChatGPT.
know.
And I really wasn't using it. And they were like, why aren't you using it? What's wrong with you? And I was like, gosh, I guess
Right.
I should be using it. I wasn't even using Copilot at work. And people are kind of
Yeah.
going, I used it for my reviews and all this. I'm going, really? And
Well,
I'm
yeah.
And they were asking me, why don't you use it more? And I was kind of like, I guess I should, but just didn't think to. I don't know how to prompt it well. So now
Oh, that's the
I'm
trick.
doing learnings. I'm learning how to
Yeah.
prompt. I'm doing all that. I'm going to
Yes.
comply.
Yes.
But it's here to stay. So we
It
have
is.
to
Oh my gosh.
evolve with
Right.
it, right?
Right.
So it's around our effective adoption,
Yes. Right.
but it's the communication that we need to have so
Right.
that people can understand, because adopting it and being part of that change is going to help your career. When you fight it,
Right.
and to your point though, there are certain things that won't be able to replace. And I think we got to be
Right.
clear about that. What
Yeah.
you do, no chance. No
Right.
chance. No chance at
Right.
all. There's not going to replace the HVAC or electrician, right? That's not happening.
Right.
So
Right.
there are things
Exactly.
that, like repetitive tasks, mundane tasks, it's going to do all day. You
Yeah.
know, that's okay.
Yeah.
No one wants to do that
Exactly.
work.
Well, Fred, as we kind of downshift toward the final couple of questions here, let's
Yeah.
shift to kind of what are you seeing coming up in the next 12, besides the tsunami of AI? What are you seeing in the tea leaves of your industry or for you and your team? Like what's
Mhm.
exciting you? What's got you, charged up about the next 12 months or so in your industry, for your team? What's on the
For my
docket?
team, great question. I think for my team, we're seeing a shift in how we're working. We've kind of
Hmm.
adopted changes. We're going to continue that through. We're looking at some new solutions to help them work better and more to
Okay.
move seamlessly.
Yeah.
Some of the systems that they currently have. I'm
Hmm.
really excited about that because that's really
Yeah.
going to shift how we work,
Great.
especially in some of our non-US regions,
Sure.
especially the very heavy manual environment.
Okay.
For that, I'm also very jazzed. As we're talking about was AI, we're looking at some transformation opportunities as well, and I want to see that through because one, I'm learning through this process. Right? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
expert in it, but I want to understand it better, how it can really tie in and improve the way we
Right.
work.
Right.
So that
Great.
really does have me energized.
Good.
I know it's a tsunami, but I kind of want to ride that wave in and see how that goes because I
So you're
think
just getting a super powered surfboard,
I
basically.
am, like let's go. I feel like a silver surfer jumping on that thing a little bit. But it's one thing I think that's going to help transform us in a really positive way. I do.
Yeah, I
And
think you're right.
is that effective messaging along this path? It's going
Hmm.
to take a couple of years.
Sure.
But the thing is, the technology is moving at such a rapid pace. We have
Right.
to we're always going to be behind the
It's
technology.
almost like we can't keep up with how fast
No,
it's moving.
right.
Right.
We're working in arrears. It's way ahead of us.
Yeah. Right.
But that's really got me excited. I think we've gotten through some of the toughest risk hurdles. I think we've got a good framework.
Good.
So I think all the work we've done over the last 3 years has really got us to this point. So this
Yeah.
year is really about transformation in a
Hmm.
positive way. So
I love it.
that's what I'm looking forward to over the next really 12, 18, 24 months, to be honest.
Great. That's amazing. And I know you do a fair amount of travel, and you were just in Poland recently.
Yeah.
How do you, just wanted to touch quickly on like the experience of managing and working alongside so many different um, languages and cultures.
Mhm.
And, we certainly are in similar style teams where that's a big part of things like English as a
Sure.
second language or just cultural
Yeah.
traditions. And so, how do you, does that excite you? Do you lean into that? And what are you seeing? Is the world getting smaller? What's happening?
Well, no, the world is not getting smaller. I think our mindset is shifting bigger.
Okay.
Think about it, there was a period of time in my career this wouldn't have even been possible. We didn't have the tools to really work with our external partners except via phone. Now I can see
Hmm.
and work with them.
Yes.
I was in India this past year for almost a month.
Wow.
Amazing experience. We've got a large team there. We've got a large presence also in the Philippines, as
Hmm.
well as our APAC and EMEA countries.
Hmm.
I talk to them every day.
Gosh, that's
And it's
awesome.
about being understanding too, and making sure you're asking questions, letting them convey their messaging. There are some, right? There's definitely some differences with regards to how we communicate.
Hmm.
More importantly, there's the human aspect of everything you do.
Right.
It, again, being intentional,
Hmm.
being understanding, asking
Hmm.
questions so you can understand better as
Yeah.
well. Is
Right.
that coming across clearly? Did I convey that? So it's
Right.
okay to ask it because sometimes how I'm messaging it may not resonate with them. So it's like,
Right.
okay, let me just make sure. Was that clear?
Yes.
Okay, you know
Yes.
what? Let me explain it this way. So sometimes it's doing that with more
Oh,
intention
so
to make
good.
sure I'm telling them that what I'm trying to understand, also what I'm trying to get from them. And it
Yes.
does take a few tries, but that's
Yes.
okay.
It
Having
does.
that investment in them, and again, everyone has something to contribute. And I think the nice thing of having a global presence is that you're interacting with people all over the globe,
Right.
and I love that
Yeah.
because
That's So
beautiful
good.
cultures everywhere, and
Yeah.
having that opportunity to talk to them and get to know them, because
Yeah.
I try to make a point to get to talk to my teams out there, and I love understanding their background, their history.
Right.
It does allow me to be more effective with them and move things forward.
Yes. Yes. I mean, people are people when it comes down to it. It doesn't matter,
Yes,
where you live or what color your hair, eyes, or
absolutely.
skin is, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um, Hey, listeners, super quick station break question for you. Have you ordered your copy of my new best-selling book, Red Light, Green Light? Check it out. Grab your copy today at onpoint-communications.com/book. And now back to the show. And I love what you said about the feedback loop that you just mentioned, which is
Mhm.
exactly, what that is. It's like, did that land? Does that, was
Yes.
that clear enough? And I'll just tell everybody, if we could scrap as much as possible, does that make sense? That would be great, because it can be
Mhm.
a little overused. But some other little ones are like, can you tell me more? Or can you say more about that? Or like you said, how does that resonate?
Mhm.
Do you need more? Would more clarity help, or are we good? Right. And so
Mhm.
coming at people evenly versus like, does that make sense? It can come off just wrong or
Understanding. Yeah.
unintentionally, right? Which you
Right.
did not say. And I mean, we all say it sometimes, but there
Mhm.
are some of those very simple kindergarten level probes, like, can you say more about that? That is a
Mhm.
game changing question sometimes in the right
Mhm.
context with the right person.
Yeah.
And who doesn't like to explain something more, frankly? Like, let's just be honest, right?
Mhm.
But when you're
Yeah.
the person who's seeking that deeper level, that can
Mhm.
be the golden question of the half hour, right? Can you say more
Right.
about that in this context? Or, um, and the bravery piece that we talked about earlier, like, I'm not totally following that. Can you say it a different way?
Mhm.
That is also a brilliant
Yeah.
question, because in most cases, the person who's being asked that question, if they have a high enough emotional intelligence, they will understand that they're
Mhm.
the one who maybe didn't quite nail it with the explanation, and they'll be like,
Mhm.
"Oh, yes, absolutely. Let me think about this in your viewpoint or from your lens." And
Right.
that's a real gift to them, frankly.
Yeah,
So,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
It's also saying like if they explain it and you say, "Well, this is how I understand it," you play
Yeah,
it back, and it could be wrong,
right.
and it gives them an opportunity to clarify what they were
Yeah.
trying to say. So
Well,
it's like, this is what I heard. This is how I understand it, and
right,
so that like this is how I consume what you told me. Is
right,
that correct? Right?
right, right. Yes.
Some
And
way. That's another creative way to kind of get it
that's
out of someone.
right. I mean, because there's nothing worse than leaving a meeting and going, "Oh my God, what the heck that person just was talking about," and then you go back to your desk and you're like,
Sure.
"Well, I don't know what to do, and I certainly don't know my why, so I don't know."
Cindy, it reminds me of a Seinfeld episode where Costanza was given the project, and yet he didn't know what it was. He walked out and go, so the project? The guy's like, oh, yeah, yeah, I know, you got it. And he's like, he had no clue.
It's like,
So,
"The project, it's going great." You're
and
like,
and that resonated because we've all been there. We've all walked out going, what was that? Like,
"What's the
someone can give me
project?
clarity.
How's the"
And in my youth, I wouldn't have been like, I'm not asking in the meeting. Are you kidding me? I'm stupid. Which I wish I had, right? Because then I
Right.
walked out there going, oh, that's what he wanted?
We could
Huh.
all do better than George Costanza, right?
Yeah, right, right.
That's awesome. Well, Fred, this has been such a great conversation, as I knew it would. Do you have any final words of wisdom for anyone entering kind of the financial sector who's
Yeah.
coming in as a 20 something, kind of right out of grad school or whatnot?
Yes,
Any advice that you'd give to them or your younger self?
for sure. I would say be present,
Mhm.
be intentional, be a sponge. Consume as much as you can, ask lots of questions, take everything on you can,
Yeah.
learn as much as you can, and be that person willing to do that tough work because
Yeah.
all those things will help you learn and give you opportunities to open a lot more doors for you.
Perfect. That's very well said, concise, clear, and understandable. Thanks, Fred, for being here. We are out of time, but I'm glad that we had a chance to cover several different lanes with you,
Yeah.
and look forward to future conversations.
Thank
Absolutely.
you so much. And it's been a true
Yeah.
pleasure. Thanks for having
Yeah.
me.
You're so welcome. Thanks for listening, everybody. Don't forget to hit follow and share with someone who you know would enjoy the conversation that I just had today with Fred. We will be back again next week with another episode with another great leader to share stories with. And until then, get out there, go find yourself an audience of stakeholders that you need to move from the red light of risk to the green light of go, and get out there and nail it. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.